Thank you, Ms. Jain. I was glued there listening to it. Very nice. Okay, I bear good news. We now advance to the last presentation of this closed group. A lot of us are smiling. All right. So, what do we do here? While RPA focuses mainly on robotically taking over and automating simple processes, hyperautomation is larger transformation on how a business operates that takes RPA to another level. Inviting Mr. Nikhil Daxini, Intelligent Automation Technology Consulting Leader, EY-GDS, to moderate the panel discussion. And may I now invite the panel, Mr. Sumit Taneja, Global Head of Insurance Transformation and Hyperautomation EXL. Mr. Shubhro, SVP and Global Head, Lean Digital Transformation GENPACT. Mr. Sachin Garg, Executive Vice President, Head of Digital COE, Teleperformance India. Requesting everybody to please give the panel a big round of applause. Mr. Daxini, over to you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope this being a last session, basically we won't keep you waiting for long. And it would be interesting for you to understand how organizations are accelerating their hyperautomation journey. I'm Nikhil Daxini. I take care of Intelligent Automation Technology Consulting Practice for EY Global Delivery Services. And I have my esteemed panelist with me.
Sumit Taneja. I lead the hyperautomation practice for EXL and also focus on insurance for digital transformation.
Hi everyone, I'm Shubhro. I head the digital transformation team for GENPACT. Looking forward to speaking to all of you.
Hi everyone, this is Sachin Garg. I work with Teleperformance and I lead the digital transformation COE for Teleperformance.
Thank you. As we all know, in today's world, organizations are not competing really on the basis of system of records, right? ERP and all. The competition or a competitive advantage is derived from a digital layer, if I could call so. And automation sits right in the center of the digital layer. That's where the focus is. The automation has become a sort of a key differentiator, if I could call so, in the digital journey. Also, the pandemic has made organizations focus more than productivity and efficiency to areas like customer experience and the enterprise risk and resilience. It's a matter of continuity. It's a matter of keeping the lights on and how do you sort of make your presence felt in the market and gain the market share when the goings were tough. At the same time, we see the technology evolving. The way we look at it, basically 3 generations of hyperautomation or automation, if I could call so. The generation one was pretty much centered around RPA and focused around task-based automation. Generation 2 we have been talking about is more around hyperautomation. It's about how do you bring complementary technologies together, right from your conversational AI to document intelligence to RPA, smart workflow, low-code, no-code to AI, ML, and NLP. How do you sort of bring focus back to the processes or value chain, cutting across organizations and drive value as the value is created at the intersection of all these technologies? So that has been the focus. Today we are going to talk about briefly what are the business imperatives for organizations from business and the technology perspective as they chart their journey and accelerate their hyperautomation journey. What different demands it has for a developer and architect community, right, as the technologies are evolving pretty fast. Be it a citizen development or a center of excellence. How organizations make this a topic of a board agenda, right, in addition to the ESGs and the cybersecurities of the world. So that's the focus of our discussions we are going to have. So Sachin, Sumit, my first question to you would be, how do you see the strategic imperatives for a business and a technology perspective for organizations, basically? What do you see in the market?
So let me take a couple of examples. So we work with one of the largest broker, and the way they are approaching transformation is they have created these service standards, which they are promising to their clients. And the entire transformation is now focused to achieve those service standards. So it's very outcome focused. Technology is just an enabler, but they're looking to create better experience rather than just focusing on, okay, we have bought this technology or we have bought this RPA tool, let's just implement, get more efficiency. The focus is the technology we can choose, right, which is the right technology to enable, but focus on the outcome, focus on the customer experience.
So customer experience basically is becoming a front and center, if I could call so, in addition to the efficiency and the productivity. Shubhro, what do you feel in your customer base of the market space?
Absolutely. I think Sumit exactly talked about it. It's actually less about productivity, as you said. Customer experience is one of the outcomes. It is about what outcomes you are going to go after. I think that is the big thing for us. But you know, the way we look at hyperautomation and the way our customers are looking at hyperautomation is not even starting with the outcome. It's what decision you want to take. For example, for a retailer, the decision they want to take is that how do they ensure that their shelves are stocked with products which are not close to expiry and can move very fast. For example, you know, somebody in the manufacturing world supporting wind turbines, they are worried about can they do preventive maintenance of their wind farms before one of the wind turbines break, because as you would know, if it breaks, the electricity generation goes down. That would be one of our clients. Or in the BFSI world, it's about I'm getting thousands of applications for any risk, whether it's insurance, whether it's a credit card, anything that might be. Which of the ones I want to process first so that I can drive the outcome? So if you've seen all of them, it's a decision which people want to take. That decisions drive the outcome. That decision gives you a bunch of data. Once we realize that that data required to take a decision is actually coming from 5 different processes. It's not just one process in the organization. And that 5 process, therefore, requires a very different technical architecture to support and orchestrate as you drive that. So once you focus on the decision to the outcome, you realize your breadth of process areas and organization you have to cover is extremely high. There, RPA will not help. You really need an end-to-end enterprise structure, which I think is driving the true value for us.
Agree completely. We also see like the organizations have run out of bandwidth to drive end-to-end sort of a macro transformation, digital transformation, if I could call so. And that's where we call sort of a micro transformations, focused on a value chain, focused on a KPI, the outcome, and delivering that end-to-end. And all these micro transformations basically add up to the overall transformation, bigger transformation, if I could call so. That has implications on the vendor ecosystem as well. So most of the vendors basically, like you see from one spectrum to other, pure play to a sort of a platform player. How do you see the vendor ecosystem sort of evolving in that era?
So, you know, when we talk about, you know, what has changed is, you know, in traditional RPA or any automation which we did, was predominantly looking at a process, identifying efficiencies, and then kind of automate it. Right now, the opportunity is to focus on what customers expect. You know, at the end of the day, customers may have different expectation in terms of what they need from each brand. And that's how as you know, Shubhro said, that's how the entire technological architecture is changing, where we need to really think through how this automation needs to be built. That really impacts the end output for the customer. And that could be, you know, there are several vendors today, and every vendor has got some of the other components, which is brilliant. But can you only work with one vendor? Maybe for certain solutions, yes. Maybe for certain solutions, no. So therefore, you know, you have to really build a good stack of vendors, looking at different capability each, you know, product brings. There is a lot of AI involvement is now needed, because I think what was easy got automated already. Now the challenge is to automate what customers expect. And you may end up, you know, really looking at building solutions that's around AI, and that's how you got to stack up in terms of, your vendor partners or your ecosystems in those vendors. And just last point is that we've seen, great innovations coming, especially from the startup world as well. And again, building that kind of a stack and building a good ecosystem would really help, automate and, actually get the efficiencies out of the entire automation processes.
Sumit, what has been your experience from the consolidation we see in the market?
I believe it's almost like if you want to have a successful digital transformation sort of stack, it's almost like a symphony. You need to have the right instruments flowing in the right manner. So for example, if I have to transform even a single client claims function end to end, I probably will be needing 6, 7 vendor ecosystems. Some are startups, some are established. I love working with the startups because you can really work with them to configure the solution as closely to ours. So for example, we bring a content extraction solution to the market on the document side, but not on the voice side. So we have chosen a startup who's great in the voice side and now integrated into our solution. So the ecosystem will obviously evolve, and as the cloud native technologies are increasing, more and more startups are going to come. They're all coming in very niche spaces. And I think the companies like us are trying to figure out how to create that perfect symphony and just find the right gems in the market and bring them all together.
That's pretty interesting. One of the interesting statements recently I heard was IA for process and AI for data. And data is becoming a sort of a front and center. If you look at the next generation of automation, generation 3, what we call it, right? Which is a bit futuristic. AI is sort of driving the different levers of what can be brought in play at various points in time in terms of executing a value chain or a process, depending upon the insights it drives. Any instances come to your mind, Shubhro, where you have seen AI playing a front and center with the data and insights and driving the automation?
Actually, Nikhil, it's the other way around. I don't know where AI is not playing a role on that. I mean, these days, as all of you would know, AI has a massive range. You can actually create a workable AI with 30 years of data, or you can create that with maybe 10 months of data. It depends on the use case. So I touched on 3 use cases, right? Any of the three use cases you take, when you start from decision, what is the problem we are trying to solve for? We are trying to solve that if there is a defect, how do we stop from that defect to happen, right? Whether it's product expiry, whether it is, applications not being processed by competition, whether in the previous example of, wind turbines not failing down, right? In either of the 3 cases, we are trying to predict when that would happen. Now that prediction earlier was human judgment, I believe this is a new scheme in the market and therefore this will go through. And that is still today important. But what it does, it goes through and AI pulls through maybe 50 different data systems using an Hyperautomation platform to actually pull out the information for you and they take a prediction. Now the human is then obviously allowed to override the prediction, but you can actually take a prediction for that. So I actually see AI front and center for almost everything, but AI has a role to play. You need to know when do you use AI judiciously. And AI also always doesn't mean that I need a data lake and I have to invest a few $1 million into that. There are a lot more practical micro AI systems which you can actually build, which are a lot more valuable and generates a lot more ROI.
Having said that, like many organizations have played a lot of sort of, if I could call so, like point solutions or very localized use of AI, right? When they have tried to scale AI at an enterprise level, that's where the challenges happen. Be it explainability or be it trusted AI. But one of the challenges what we have seen is the operationalization of the whole pipeline. What has been your experience from operationalization of AI?
Yeah, it's actually a mixed experience. We have seen great success. We talk about AI, the base of, everything is data. And, for us, we manage billions of customers interaction. We talk to customers, and it's important for us to use that data as memory. For us to be able to retain that data, to be able to go back to a customer and be able to use the same information which we had as a memory, to serve this customer. Now, wherever we've been able to successfully do that, wherever we've been able to, or clients been able to successfully use that data so that, we are able to reduce the effort customers are putting in every interaction they're doing, we are seeing great benefit. But at times, when you look at AI as a concept, it may work in small component and then suddenly it would stop working in other components. And therefore, I think the most successful implementation today has been in hybrid mode, where it's a collaboration between, what we call it as man and machine collaboration, where you have, machine actually doing most of the work and man kind of validating it. And I think it's still some time for AI to kind of fully take over this entire automation. But right now, a hybrid solution gives us much better, accuracies and efficiencies on that.
Also, like with all the technologies coming in to solve or automate a value chain, right? Different technologies, complementary technologies. That has a huge demand, if you look at it, on the developer community, right? People talk about full stack engineers, right? It's like a full stack automation engineers, right? How do you see the talent landscape changing, Sumit?
I think you rightly said the demand for full stack is obviously going to increase. But I would say that the developer community needs to just figure out what's the latest thing in the market, but understand what they're trying to do. So for example, if you're trying to improve a process with using AI, then understand what technologies will go in, what's the trend in the market, because it's going to change. I can tell you the kind of hiring we are doing today, in 2 years down the line, the skill set might absolutely be very different. And people just need to be ensure that they are learning on an ongoing basis so that things, they can evolve. So for example, 2 years back, or maybe 3 years back, we were all looking at RPAs, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism. In the last 18 months, I've seen a lot of demand for low code and no code with Appian and Pega and others. I'm sure in 2 years that will change. But we just need to evolve as a community also, that the technology will keep on evolving and changing. We just need to have the, I would say, aptitude with the developer community that, yes, we will learn and we will keep evolving, but basics remain the same. So whether you do coding in C or Sail in Appian, the basics remain the same. If you are a good developer, you will be a good developer irrespective of what technology it is.
Also, like as the focus is moving from back office to middle office to front office, right? The sector and the ability to do the process analysis, basically value chain analysis and bringing in the right levers. There's a combination of those things basically like become quite important from a consulting or a developer community perspective. Your thoughts, Shubhro, on that?
No, absolutely true. First of all, Sumit's perspective was brilliant on how developers need to really be agile on this entire process. See, full end-to-end stack has always been a concept, right? But with hyperautomation, what has really happened is you need to have full understanding of the whole process. So you need to have full designers, end-to-end designers. You can still have specialization for development in specific areas. Like, I am more of an orchestration person. You can be an orchestration person. I am more of a AI, data analytics person. You can be a more person. But what it really needs is you have designers or analysts who can actually do end-to-end. Like, for example, with us, our initial heritage was on process, Six Sigma, end-to-end came naturally to us. If I look at that team has now completely converted into people who will design the end-to-end data map, design the end-to-end solution, understand which technology stack from your hyperautomation stack will start playing a role, and then play the part. So in addition to Sumit's point, it is the end-to-end designers with a data and a process mindset which will make any hyperautomation use case work. And that is, I think, to be very honest, the secret sauce of making it work.
That's pretty interesting and gets a bit complicated, and there comes the angle of citizen development, right? Organizations, while they are trying to sort of scale automation at the enterprise scale, right? And trying to leverage citizen developers. And on the other side of the extreme, you have a center of excellence is centralized and trying to drive innovation, try to drive solutioning and all. So how do you feel, Sachin, citizen development and the center of excellence is basically coexisting or complementing each other?
No, absolutely. Very close to me. I think citizen developer is a great concept. Yeah. However, it's going through its own evaluation right now. It requires a lot of effort in terms of be able to provide right knowledge, education and training to people to be able to build and understand, identify opportunities to automate. It's very easy, in the automation world of process, there are tasks that you could automate. There are processes you could automate. And then you have, back office, middle office and front office operations. So I believe today, with the technology, citizen developers can really support on task level automation, which are simple, easy, and then, touch them maybe on day in and day out. But COEs play a more critical role. And I think while we term the concept as COE, but this is more about COEs are kind of turning into managed services, be able to actually provide end-to-end service, to be able to look at those complex automation, look at the process end-to-end. And I know you talked about full stack developers, but the point is that it all starts with you being able to identify the right problem to solve or right process to automate. And again, depending on the complexity of that process is where you need to really look at what team or unit would actually serve that purpose. And therefore, COEs plays an important role in terms of defining the automation maybe at a process level. And citizen developer as a, I think the technologies are there with low code, no code, several platforms being available. But it requires a lot of effort, a lot of training so that we are able to pick the right thing. Otherwise, there would be too many automation in the system, and each automation may not talk to each other.
Can I make it more complicated for the audience and for you, Nikhil?
Sure.
In addition to citizen development, the latest is citizen insight generation. Right? That's for us. That's the big thing. That's the kind of programs, data literacy we are running. But to Sumit's to the point which Sachin made, it is not just the citizen development, but today if it's all about data and insights and decisions being made, ability for a normal business user to generate his own insight is becoming equally critical. So in addition to citizen development going through its own journey, citizen insight generation, I believe, is something which has started, and a lot of organizations like us are investing heavily behind that to drive the true value. Because to be very honest, nobody better knows the process than the user of the process. And if you can enable that team to generate insights, that's fantastic.
That's pretty interesting.
Just to add, I think citizen developer, I think we tend to sometimes just confuse with the word developer, right? So every citizen or every employee does not need to be a developer in that whole journey. I think the idea is that the entire organization is working together to achieve an outcome. So the role can be a subject matter expert, insight generation. Yes, some would be very wanting to code a little bit, and some would be expert in coding, and all of that comes together. But I think, and I don't think COE and citizen developer are two different things. They will both exist. It all depends how mature the organization is. If you want to start something, you won't give it to citizen developers, or you won't distribute it. You will start as a COE, you will scale it, and then try to go into separate areas so that you can start scaling into local regions. But the important is everybody needs to be participative and engaged in the whole process, and that's where citizen developer, I think, will be a very, very important attribute.
So if I could summarize that in 2-3 words, like enablement, governance, and guardrails, right? That would help drive your citizen development at the enterprise scale. Having run a lot of hyper-automation programs for the clients, where do you think things fall through the crack? What goes wrong? Any learnings?
See, anything and everything can go wrong. That's the reality. Because, one of the things, Nikhil, you actually talked about, today, hyper-automation, and Sachin, you touched upon that as well. whatever is easy is maybe done. So when you are starting on a hyper-automation journey, you are maybe making the movement from 96% to 99%, right? So therefore, you're already sitting on extremely ambitious, huge legacy of performance and so on and so forth. Now, where organizations really go along with the journey is actually two things. First of all, taking it as like a product-based approach. For example, a hyper-automation journey is not a journey of RPA plus. It's not a journey of integration. It's not just a journey of orchestration. It's a journey of all of that together. If you do not design your program as all the 8 or 9 components of a hyper-automation platform coming together as a big team, then those programs would fail. Because organizational change management, I am the COE of robotics. I am the COE of integration. Those beyond the point cannot effectively collaborate. So for hyper-automation projects, the biggest reason they actually fail is because you are not staffing up your team in that manner. I think that's number one. The second point from that is what's the methodology you're using. We all talk about agile, but truly the adoption of agile has a lot been on paper, but in reality, acceptance of that has been still a theory, right? But hyper-automation mandates you to be agile because you can't wait for 4 months and realize 9 components are not giving the right requirement. So agile has to be very, very important. And third, putting the user at the center. Still, in a lot of cases, we get excited because it's an ambitious use case. We think that it's a fantastic design problem I'm trying to solve for. But does it really give you the value? And does it really give you the business user experience? So I think 95% of all failures will be attributed to either of these 3 or any of combination of those from that perspective. Sumit.
I'll just give an example. It's a very simple example, but sometimes you will realize how simple things can almost fail a transformation. So we created an application for a client, and we said reporting we will do in Power BI. We'll create a Redshift cluster and import into Power BI. The client had been using SSRS for years, and they were used to using SSRS. When we suggested Power BI, they got all excited, oh, we can slice this data, dice this data, we'll do a lot of stuff. Finally, the day came when we implemented the reports. They said, this looks good, but how do I import it to Excel? Because I want to now take the 4 rows and send it to one of my agent. We tried exporting, and if you know, Power BI exports as raw data dump. It does not, it loses all formatting. And now the client was red-faced. They're saying, this is not what we wanted. We wanted something different. We said, I showed them PowerPoint, so you can have live reports, you can send a link to the agent. But I think the conversation went from because the expectation was the world will remain the same. But I think we are also at fault. It's not that client could not understand it. We are also at fault to understand what their use cases of usage of reports were and how we could manage it. But I'm just saying the simple expectation of moving to brand new, great new tech, new user experience did not work well because the expectation was absolutely different or use case was something different. And to me, learning was, if you want to suggest client new ways of doing things, you have to get them onboarded, set the right expectations. I'm sure they will walk the path, but you have to do it in advance because at the end, it will just become a conversation, a quarrel, or a conflict.
Sachin, your thoughts?
No, yeah, so I think Shubhro rightly mentioned the 3, but I would actually prioritize the top reason for failure has been around the design. It really fails if you're not able to design it correctly when you start your problem solving. And again, I think the best method, at least what we have identified, is to really spend more time on designing, be able to build certain prototypes, and really at least evangelize in terms of how the solution would really work. User sits at the center. Many a times you would build a solution, but user is not able to interpret in terms of what is bot doing versus what a user is supposed to do, and then it kind of fails the entire automation piece. But therefore, design plays an extremely important element in terms of creating the right design so that, and do the prototyping so that you're able to test it before you kind of go all hog and then build the solution around it.
Thanks, Sachin. So as we saw, the the evolving world of hyper-automation technologies and the vendor ecosystem definitely has a very different nuances, right from expectations from developers to how flexible or agile your organization is to adopt and leverage citizen development, also drive change management internally to drive the outcomes. Definitely it's getting attention at the top, becoming a board room topic for investments and driving differentiation in the market. Thank you panel. Thanks for your insights. And any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful discussion and conversation on RPA and the emerging technologies. I think all the panel members touched upon the necessity of the developer and the development community to evolve along with the changing need of this current situation, right? My experience says in last 1 decade, the way we have seen the landscape changing, as I think Sumit and Shubhro, you touched upon, we graduated from desktop or micro automations to point solutions and to RPAs, and now we are talking about end-to-end, right? But what I struggle to figure out in my personal space, from a solutioning point of view is, whenever we try to create, we look at the process as, Sachin, you touched upon, from a design perspective, right? You understand the current landscape, you create a design, you kind of gather entire community to accept that solution and get it developed and deployed. By the time we cover this entire journey, somewhere in the ecosystem, a technology landscape has also evolved, right? And I feel, that is kind of not being taken care of somewhere while we are creating the designs. Because when we talk about end-to-end solutions for any sort of organization, what I've felt is it takes roughly about 12 to 18 months of journey if I talk about right from starting till the time we put it into UAT and get it deployed, right? So in that course, if there is a technology landscape that is changing, I think that's where I find some challenge, and I thought I'll just request your experience and expertise on that. How can we address this situation? Because we as service providers or solution developers understand the technology, but the organization to whom we are providing this service, they are also evolving, right, in their own structure and frame. So that's where I thought if you can shed some light.
Sure, I think I can take a shot. I didn't get your name.
Shailesh.
Shailesh, I think it's a brilliant question. It's a truly brilliant question. It's a real life question. Any one of us who is in the business understands that. But let's unpeel this a little bit, right? Let's break the kind of technology into 2 parts. Part number 1 is the underlying technology on which I am building. That is changing. Part number 2 is the hyper-automation set itself is changing. 2 different sets. It's very important to keep an eye on that, right? Underlying technology can be ERP, guideware, core banking system, whatever that might be. That's what I'm calling. Now, that one is a slightly easier one because when you start a project, any project you start, if we are not doing a full end-to-end tech change assessment, full end-to-end impact analysis, the project is doomed on that day. Because as you read, I mean, if you are in ERP, they are migrating to S4. We all know the timelines of migration. They are slipping dramatically, right, or adding dramatically. So if you are unable to have a point of view on that, and build your design accordingly, we are definitely going to fail. I think that's the one easily solved by doing an end-to-end technology assessment before you start it. The more complicated challenge is about if you are, let's say, using 9 technology components to build a hyper-automation stack. Your question is that stack is evolving over 16 to 18 months, and how does that change? I think that is the true problem on the table. Well, the way to address that is actually through maybe 2 different dimensions. One, get your partners as a part of the hyper-automation journey. If you look at our commercial models today, we are looking at value-based commercials, outcome-based commercial. So it is less about, I sold you license number 10.0, now I've got you 10.3. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to provide the provider. So if you bring the concept of value from your customers to yourself and to your partners as well, you will see people working a lot more collaborative manner. They will be able to give you different kind of technologies together. I think that's one thing which we need to do. The second thing which I talked about is actually agile. I think the time has come for the industry to stop talking about agile and truly adopting it. As a practitioner, all of us knows, right? Agile is easier said than done. If you follow agile manner, you will see the problem isn't going to go away. But it will minimize by 70 to 80%.
If I could add to that, we feel appetite of organizations to drive 12 to 18 months automation-led transformation is gone. Right? So people are looking at basically a 1 quarter or 2 quarter at the max. So again, basically like things would change in those 2 quarters as well. That's where we have coined a term called as a micro-transformation. Micro-transformation focuses on just one value chain and couple of KPIs. You deliver that and iterate over a 12 to 18 months, it becomes really a transformation journey.
Just to add one thought, sometimes we get, AWS has launched a new service, that's very good service, we need to use it. And we have been using Azure services, for example, right? Believe me, Azure is going to catch up in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And maybe even better than what you were. So just trying to get the newest technology in the project is also not a great idea. I think once you have chosen a tech stack, most of the tech stacks will catch on. It's never going to happen that Azure will lag behind in their cognitive services or that services. They have to. Google will also catch on. So I don't think we should sometimes take any impulsive things, oh no, just get the latest tech because that's the latest.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up. And great moderation, Mr. Daxini. I think we're dot on time. Look at that. Great facilitation.
Thank
Brilliant.
you.
All right, I would like to still have them stay on the stage for a little while and invite Ms. Linika Khattar, Director DNI NASSCOM, to please lead the felicitation for our esteemed panelists. Round of applause, everyone, for Mr. Nikhil Daxini. Mr. Sumit Taneja.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry.